Hey everyone, welcome back to Screen Heroes. Of course, I am Ray, and I am with Ryan and Derek, and we are discussing the man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. It's only the fourth time I've had to say it this episode. All right, so a little bit about the movie. It just came out this year. It is kind of an indie project. It was released direct to streaming platforms as opposed to...
It did go in theaters.
Oh, it was?
It had a limited release in theaters.
Okay, well, that's fair.
So.
We never got any notifications. We're pretty close to the ground. So I apologize for that misinformation. Let's see here. I am... forgetting the director. Derek's looking up the IMDb right now. Main actor, of course, is Sam Elliott, and then his younger version is played by Aidan Turner from... Oh my gosh, this gnat is like in my face. The director is Robert Krzyzkowski.
Yes.
Krzyzkowski.
Yeah.
All right, this is annoying.
It also features Peter from Office Space.
Yeah, Ron Livingston.
Yeah.
His character's name is Flagpin.
It is. This is actually the first movie that he has directed, by
Okay.
the way. He's directed a short called Elsie Hooper in 2016, and that's pretty much it. A couple, 4 producer credits and a couple writing credits, which are just the 2 movies he directed. So a relatively young career.
Yeah.
And you get to work with Sam Elliott right out of the gate. So
I don't think it's that hard to work with Sam Elliott, to be honest with you.
I mean, we could try.
I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff.
he's never been on our stuff. So
we haven't asked him.
Sam Elliott, would you like to be on the show?
You have to actually contact him. He doesn't watch this.
You don't know that.
Although, if the Twitter account is sharing our stuff, maybe they get the message to him.
Maybe. All right, so it's received some moderate success. It's done pretty well and pretty good reviews. So
5.6 on IMDb.
That's not bad on IMDb.
I think that's lower than what we normally
Sure.
review on here.
Okay.
I would say.
To be fair, we all went into this not really knowing. We just kind of decided on a whim to review it.
True.
So we basically knew the title. I don't even remember ever watching the trailer. Maybe I
did not watch the trailer.
I don't remember if I did or not. I don't think I did, but...
Well, let's just get rid of the spoiler warning here, so
Sure.
that way we can just freely talk about it. I think because
Absolutely.
I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but it is available on streaming services, Hulu at a minimum. I know you can rent it on Amazon Prime Video, for example. So go check it out if you are interested. Otherwise, let's do it. Let's talk.
All right, so I have a sneaking suspicion why its score on IMDb is so low. I get the feeling that because of the key art, because of the title, people had different expectations for this film.
I did. I mean, so my big problem is that, yes, the title sets up something that this movie is not at all. And so when you go in expecting something and then it's totally different and not necessarily in a great way from what you expect, yeah, that's disappointing and it leaves a sour taste. And I'm trying to review the movie without that, but it's really tough to get past that because they named it that for an obvious reason. And
It reminds me of the Iron Man 3 kind of bait and switch.
Well, at least
Pretty good
this
with the
was
Mandarin.
like right from the beginning. Out of the gate, it was not a
You're right.
flashy movie. The title does lend itself to being a movie reminiscent of the 70s Grindhouse films. I thought it was going to be a little more action-packed and maybe some tongue-in-cheek parody
B-movie
along the
type
way.
stuff, yeah.
Right, like elevating the B-movie kind of thing. We've seen a lot of that lately. The Dead Don't Die did it, and Turbo Kid has done it. Kung Fury? I want to see that movie.
Kung Fury.
I do not want to see that movie.
Kung Fury did it with their short, so it's a very common trend for people to do these kind of indie films, cheaper budget on the grindhouse silliness level. So this was not it, guys.
This was a character story that the title implies that Hitler and Bigfoot are going to be a big part of the story, and I think combined they're probably less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would probably say less than 10.
Yeah.
That they're actually on screen or nearby.
Right. So that, yeah. They're...
So, I mean, I
feel
agree.
like I'm going to be jumping around all over the place on this.
And
So
we can. Like, I
overall,
agree with you guys.
just to completely set your expectations, this story is an artsy indie film seeped in melancholy. Everything about this is just sad. We watch Sam Elliott's character age, and he has lived a sad, lonely life. He's not close to his family. You find out at the end that the only woman he's ever loved died very young, and he couldn't be with her because of World War II. So it's a sad story, and don't let the title mislead you. If that's the kind of thing you're in for and you're prepared for it, you know exactly what you're getting into. I think the movie is good based on that respect because Sam Elliott does play a very compelling character.
I mean, there are parts of the movie that I would agree with you at that, but the beginning, like, it is a slow burn in this movie because he lives alone.
It's not even a burn. Like, there's never the burn doesn't get to anything. Like, the burn implies that there's like going to be something when the fuse gets to the end, but there's not.
I mean, he
really.
does have a hand-to-hand confrontation with Bigfoot
For 30 seconds.
No,
yeah,
you're right. What I mean though is, like, because he lives alone and he lives with his dog and he doesn't have he's retired. I'm assuming he has a very quiet life, right? And so he's already sad when we meet him at the bar. You do get a flash of his significance in the street fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the street fight, as a guy that likes choreography,
I know.
was freaking terrible. It was, and I know that Sam Elliott is an older guy, but
that's the issue.
You have to, like, the people have done it better.
Well,
with old actors.
It's the issue that I have with the Taken films. It's the issue that I have with Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel. It's very obvious that these men are in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah, Sam Elliott's 75.
Absolutely.
And he's
Liam
a tough
Neeson
guy,
is old.
but
Samuel L. Jackson is up there too in age, and it's very obvious that these men cannot leap or even really exert themselves like they used to be. So, I mean, if you don't make their blows damage heavy, if you make their fight choreography quick and fast, like, you can't do that. You cannot. It looks unbelievable.
So, I mean, overall, I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in this movie, very artsy symbolism, right? Like the rock in his shoe that he finally gets out at the very end of the movie, and his shots of, like, the food that he's eating at night. He's got the microwave dinner. I'm assuming the
dinner's even sad, guys.
Right,
the dinner's even sad.
The movie takes place in the 70s?
No. It's like the early 90s.
Yeah. It's fairly
Those cars
current.
were all older than that.
Yeah, it was
could be
early
reminiscent
90s.
of the town. Like, he was living in a house.
Because I looked
that
it up
had
afterward. It was like
never-
93 or something.
Yeah.
Really?
The house had never been updated.
I tried
at all.
really hard to figure out when the movie took place.
We were trying to figure out that out too, but it was
every car in there was like
Before
40
you
years
watch
old.
it,
But it was also small town America,
Yeah.
so they probably didn't have brand new Lexuses and
well, no,
Acuras
brand
and
new,
stuff.
but I mean,
Yeah.
not like one 80s Mustang rolling down.
It's very obvious during World War II when it takes place, clearly, but yeah, the flash forward with Sam Elliott and not Aidan Turner, I have no idea. So being told that it was the 90s makes a lot of sense.
I believe it was. It was a few days ago that I watched it. I don't remember what year it was, but I was pretty sure it was either like late 80s, early 90s, but
I've
it's
been to
somewhere
a few
in there.
small towns where it doesn't seem like they've aged past a certain decade.
Yeah, and I've driven
know.
through small towns where the cars are all older. Like,
Yeah.
that's not out of the question,
Okay.
It's not ideal.
It was definitely,
but
we were like, this is not modern day.
Right.
It can't be the 70s because if he's in his 20s during World War II, he's not going to be 70-something in the 90s or in the 70s. He kind of would be in the 90s, I guess.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, but the fact that we're arguing or discussing this is not a good sign,
No,
right?
it's-
Like, it
it's
clearly needs to spell stuff like that out if it's going to be...
Yeah, so I mean, like, they try and do some relationship building, right? He goes to see his brother Ed, who is the barber in town, and it's awkward and it's weird.
So, that was one of the parts of the movie that I liked was his relationship with his brother.
Okay.
From personal
was
experience,
cute.
as you age with your family, like when you're kids, your brother, you at least for me, I spent a lot of time with my brothers. They're like my best friends, but as we've grown older, I see them like once a month, and maybe they don't know the things happening in my life, and so I kind of related to that as you age, you maybe are not necessarily as close as you were, so that hit home with me, and I did like that relationship. Also, the relationship with his dog, I loved that he always took care of, even in World War II, he had a dog with him, and he always took care of the dog, and they made a point to show that he had a relationship with his dog.
Ray,
I do, yeah.
Are you gonna say it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. Okay, so because of the title, because I was also expecting this to be different, and because I know movies tend to progress characters with fast tragedies, I did look it up on the website, doesthedogdie.com, which is absolutely great. If you have any sort of phobias or curiosities or even small triggers that can be made worse with film, you should check this website out. Neither of the dogs die in this film. That not on screen. Like, obviously, it's implied that the 1940s dog is not still alive in the 1990s, but nothing on screen. Both the dogs are very good boys.
That's right. They are.
That website's great, guys. If you ever worry about something, you should check that out first.
I mean, this is a tough one. It's hard to really know.
So for an overall thing about the movie, it felt like it wanted to be an artsy movie, but for me, it never really found its footing. Like, it was slow, and everything was very heavy-handed. The writing I did not find good at all. I thought it was very cringy most of the time. Anytime there was dialogue other than Sam Elliott, I didn't feel like any of them really like nailed it. The scene that was supposed to be super like pivotal to the movie, when he's sitting at the table with the government guys and going through
really
his.
Liked that.
Did you?
I
didn't
did.
really like. For
I liked
some reason,
his
I couldn't buy.
monologue.
Sam Elliott was great. Like everything I'm saying is not about him. I still think the dialogue that they gave him was not great, but he, being Sam Elliott, was able to, make it sound good. But I think that almost everybody else, the dialogue was not good and felt super forced and is not how people talk.
So the scene you're talking about is probably about halfway through the movie, maybe even a little bit before. A member of the U.S. government and the Canadian government, who he speaks with a French accent, they approach him to kill Bigfoot. And it's because their take on Bigfoot's very interesting. I actually really like how they spun him. Bigfoot is a carrier of a plague. It has wiped out animals. It's wiped out some plant life. And it's killed some humans.
So real quick before you continue, because this I don't want to forget this part. Did it bother you guys at all that everyone just completely accepted the fact that Bigfoot was real without even questioning it?
Well, they were keeping it under wraps. That the media was calling the deaths serial killings.
Right. I just meant like Sam Elliott's like, yep, Bigfoot, he's real. I got you. Like, no questions asked, no disbelief.
They
might as well said it was a mountain lion.
Well, all of a sudden, if you find out cryptids are actually real, I think there would be some more follow-up questions, but it would have hurt that scene, I think.
I also think that he's just a man that's seen some shit, so it's just the fact that it wasn't shocking to him is a character builder.
See, but I think because it was Bigfoot, it made that scene really silly for me, because this is a guy who, he killed Hitler in World War Sorry, I got confused with Kingsman for a minute. I was like, wait a minute, that's the wrong war.
And we have to touch on that part too, because that was my favorite part of, I think, the entire movie was that little monologue regarding killing Hitler.
Okay, so let's not forget to go back to that. So he does that, and that's a real person killed with a normal gun in a very real way, right? So he did that, and he was in the military, and that's all we really get to know. He fist fights some dudes at night, and then all of a sudden, Bigfoot's real. It's totally cool, and it just seemed like a huge leap. Like, if they could have made it some other kind of creature that is real, that we know is real, and it would have at least made that scene more believable.
But that's the whole thing about this movie, the whole tone of it. They couldn't decide whether they wanted this to be a B movie or if they wanted this to be, a
Sundance movie.
A Sundance, or if they wanted this to be, like an artsy indie film. It just, there were so many mixed tones in the movie, and anytime you thought you had a grasp on what the movie was, it went in a different direction, and just
think about it for a minute. If they had made it a bear, right? And I don't know a whole lot about Canada, whatever kind of bear that they would have up there. Right?
False brown bear.
Like, I don't know. Like, right? But like, okay, fine. Sam Elliott doesn't need to question that because we all know.
But he couldn't have gotten
bears
into
are
a
real.
fist fight with a bear.
I mean,
And also,
yeah.
one couldn't have vomited straight into his mouth.
Oh God.
That
We'll
was
get
a
to
thing,
that.
guys.
We'll get to that.
That was a thing.
So
guys.
anyway, so continue with that scene.
All right, so I'm actually going to go back. So we see Aidan Turner and his young version of Calvin Barr, Sam Elliott's character, kill Hitler in a very unique way. He makeshifts a gun
I loved that. Yeah, that was cool.
out of a pen and a flask, and like the flask is a silencer, the pen is the barrel, and I didn't know what was the...
It looked like a belt buckle kind
Mm-hmm.
of, but he put it on the table when he was going through like the check-in. So
He
it
put
may-
Which is
almost
the very
everything on the
first-
yeah,
table.
but it
so.
may not have been a belt buckle then, so I'm not entirely sure what it was.
But he's doing this under his coat all while he's walking down the hallway, and of course, SS soldiers are watching him, and it's an incredibly tense scene.
The false shoe heel was cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, that whole thing was really well done. He gets into the office, he meets Hitler, and he hands him an envelope with the advertisement that said,
The Uncle Sam.
yeah, the Uncle Sam, I want you for the American Army. And that's when Hitler gets like really confused and concerned, and he shoots him twice, one in the chest and
Double tap.
one in the head. You should always double tap, guys.
Especially if you're killing Hitler.
The
And
hallway
zombies.
the hallway scene is really cool. It's shot well. The tempo is good. I like that he fumbles with it a little bit, right? And he almost gets caught by that woman coming down the hall. Like I appreciate the human moment.
And
in
you
that.
find out why later on, like he tells you during that scene.
What do you mean?
Why he was fumbling, why he was nervous and everything. Yeah.
He just had never killed somebody before. You
Right.
mean? Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's killed 2 things in his whole life.
Right.
And it's because people have sought him out and asked him to do this.
So you talked about like that there was a really well done shot and everything, and I want to say that the cinematography in this movie was really actually good. Like it was whoever was the cinematographer for this did a great job. The director clearly has a good visual mind. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that of his method of storytelling, but between the two of them, the whole movie was shot very well.
There's
I didn't
some
have any
beautiful
issues.
shots.
Yeah,
Like
and
Sam
there's some that are a
Elliott.
little cheesy, but
Well,
you know.
but like going with like the melancholy Sundance film thing, like when he's sitting by himself at his kitchen table and the dog's laying underneath while he's eating his breakfast and with the sausages and stuff. Like
And he gives
it was
his dog one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just shot nicely, right? It's like these guys know what they're doing.
But
get
in stark
the emotion.
contrast, the scene when he like shows up to the burning inferno in Canada, and it's like a shot with him from behind, and it's like black with like ring of fire in front of it. It's like what movie are we watching right now?
How did he get through that? They didn't explain
No.
how he got through the fire barrier.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Because they don't.
They
And
don't. Like, you see him, and then the next shot is
He's
him
like 5
inside
feet
of
away
it.
from Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that shot is part of the problem with the movie because it's almost what's used in the key art for the film, and it makes it look like Apocalypse Now, but with Bigfoot. So it's got to be like ridiculous, right? And so that's what I think most people probably thought the movie was. And even on IMDb, the movie doesn't really say anything. It just says a legendary American war veteran is recruited to hunt a mythical creature. That's the movie.
Yeah, if you just go by that, it sounds like a completely different film than what we watched.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to the monologue that I like. So he's being approached by these two, I guess they are military ambassadors on behalf of these 2 countries. And Ron Livingston's character, Flagpin, says that his father told him stories of the man who killed Hitler. Now, they never even say Hitler's name at this time, but Sam Elliott goes on this wonderful kind of tirade almost about how it did absolutely nothing, how they had stand-ins and actors ready to replace Hitler because the idea of the genocide of the Holocaust was already much bigger than one man himself. So when they finally, when D-Day happened, when Hitler, committed suicide, it was actually the 4th person. And he describes him as both a coward and a womanizer, but a coward first and foremost, and he shot himself. So that he you could tell just in that he was regretting actually doing it in the first place, that he didn't want to do it, and that it meant nothing. So he has the burden of murdering someone on his chest without the effect that it actually helped. So,
And I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. Another
That's
way
how
to
I
look
did.
at it is you got to shoot Hitler in the head. So, I mean, you know.
I have a feeling it's a little different for you than it was him.
I mean, maybe, but still, it felt a little like I appreciated what he was trying to say, right? Because there's some truth to that. That that it became the concept became bigger than the original person who came up with it. I do appreciate that concept, but
And I mean, it's still true. There's still Nazis out. The Nazi Party still exists, and there's Nazis in America and Nazis across the world, and Hitler is not.
It just seemed
around.
like a weird thing to be in your 70s and regretting that action you took while in the military to kill Hitler decades later. It was just a little like has he spent the last like 50 years like that?
Okay, so you remember the part where he comes home and he finds all the letters that
Yeah.
Maxine had sent him, and he throws them all away, and then you just see him crying in his bed? I maintain that's exactly what he's done for the last 50 years.
Okay. That just seems crazy. Like, how did he keep a job or
I
keep
don't
his
think he
relationship with his?
did.
Well, I mean, he didn't have enough money to survive for 50 years by just being in
Well,
the
I would
war.
hope that he made a deal. Like, you risk your life. He traveled all across Russia.
Tracked him for months.
Tracked
Sure, but I
Hitler
mean,
for
if
months.
he was a soldier, like you have
He was a
orders.
specialist. Like,
Right.
he wasn't just a soldier.
He was a tracker.
But I
Yeah.
don't think they gave him like $10 million, or something like that.
No, but maybe he made some investments with it or something. I don't know. I don't know. Like,
It's-
again, they don't explain what he's done for the last 50 years. They kind of just jump
That's
ahead
all.
from the 40s to the 90s.
That's part of my problem with that, though. Is like this has just been his issue for his entire adult life.
Well, it's just part of the heavy-handed thing I was bringing up with
Yeah.
all this stuff. Like, you would get the scene in the gas station where he finds somebody's lottery ticket, and in every line in it is about throwing something old away, and it's meant to be a double meaning with him being old and, like, feeling like he's getting thrown away, and it's like, that's not how people talk. You
No.
know, this dialogue is so unbelievably, like, heavy-handed.
So-
Yeah, and it was also supposed to show that he's a nice guy.
Sure.
Right, but I also felt that aspect was very heavy-handed.
But you
too.
can do that without...
Well, I mean, just him treating his dog well is
Yeah.
enough for most people to go, he's a nice guy, because, bad people don't often treat their dogs well. It's, it's a good sign.
Yeah. So we should probably talk about both Bigfoot and Maxine, because out of nowhere, Maxine was probably the second or third largest part of the movie.
Sure, Maxine.
And the
so-
box. We'll have to talk about the box, too.
The MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like really a MacGuffin because the whole plot doesn't center around it, but
It kind of does.
yeah. Okay, so Maxine.
Yeah, so she's nice, she's friendly, she's a teacher, and then she dies.
Allegedly. We don't really know.
Wow.
I mean, I know she dies, but, like, we don't know for sure what happened. They didn't explain what happened.
She
No,
got
they did
sick
not.
and she died. The way I kind of
While
frame-
he was away, right?
That's
Like,
the
yeah.
thing. Like when he gets back and sees the letters, I think he throws them away because she's already dead.
I thought originally that was what was in the box, was the letters, but then he threw them away, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that's not what it is.
I'm assuming what's in there is the ring he was going.
It
for.
is, but that's an awful big box for a ring, and
Well,
Could
maybe-
be some other mementos of
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
It's not his war medals because he doesn't want those. He doesn't want his uniform. He keeps those kind of out of his sight.
That's the thing. They go really out of their way to show you what it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and all that's left is the ring, and maybe they had like tickets to a movie or like little things like that.
Yeah.
You know.
So he falls in love with this beautiful woman in the 40s, and she's just a wonderful, nice person, and they go a little bit overboard to show how flawless she is. They are at a restaurant. He's going to propose because he leaves for the war in like a week or two at that point, and she has a couple who are parents of her kids stop by and tell her how wonderful she is and how beautiful she is, and really they make her out to be this perfect human being, and that's fine, that's great, but they also use her as like the tragedy turning point in his life to never be motivated again.
yeah, she's the tool for his character, basically. That's the purpose she serves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they kill her off screen.
Well, it should be called Hitler, Bigfoot, and Maxine. And then it's like all three things that have tragically affected this man. And that's it. That's all his character is. He's no more.
So, all right, so we have Bigfoot. So he turns the guys down, but he changes his mind after a talk with his brother, and he goes to kill Bigfoot.
And his brother also just accepts that Bigfoot's real.
That made it even worse. Like, okay, like, cause, right, let's talk about that for a minute. Because if Sam Elliott, well, he's seen some shit, right? So he accepts it. His brother's a barber, man. Why does he just accept
Who's
that?
at least like 15 years younger, because he was a small child when his brother went off to war. At least.
I mean, he's played by Larry Miller. Larry Miller is 9 years younger in real life.
That's
So,
fair.
if, you know.
But
I just took it as his brother has told him the things,
I know.
that happened. And so, he's just being supportive of his brother. And
Well, his brother does say the line about, like, liars always lie, and
Yeah.
people who tell the truth always tell the truth, which is total nonsense.
It doesn't
Like,
make
people are
any
not
sense.
100%.
I wasn't
it's
really
always
paying
safe deal in
attention.
absolutes type deal.
Well, I mean,
I
there
wasn't-
isn't a single person on the planet who only does one or the other.
No. I wasn't really like focused on how bad the dialogue is. Recalling things now, I can totally see it. But that moment, it was really taken out of the entire scene, and I was like, damn, man, shut your mouth. Because he also added fancy man will always be fancy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, where did that come from?
It was weird, which is a shame because I like him as an actor. Like, we grew up with him in a lot of things, and it was nice to see him again. It's been a long time.
I can really only name 10 things I hate about you. I
Fair
can't
enough.
really recall too much else, to be honest.
It doesn't matter. It was nice to see him in something, and then to have, first off, his part be fairly small, and when he does have a significant scene, have it just be such nonsense that they wrote for him was disappointing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes to this ridiculous facility where E.T. probably is, and he gets to pick his weapons. And there's the kick-ass room, of weapons, and he picks a rifle from World War II.
A bolt-action rifle, yeah.
from World War II, and a knife.
Yeah.
He picked a rope, too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But, like, it just, like, I get it. He still exists back in World War II. Like, that's the whole point, right? Is that his life stopped when he killed Hitler, right? Is that the idea?
But this guy, like, turned in a bunch of favors to get all this weaponry flown in, and he could have really just gone to, like, the gun store on the corner, and they have Mausers and, other bolt-action rifles there that are not really... He could have gone to Walmart and gotten one. Like, they...
Yeah.
It's not anything special at all.
It's the oldest rifle he could find.
Yeah, basically.
Literally.
Yeah.
But that's what he's got. Fine. He puts a scope on it. So he gets to go and he's hunting Bigfoot. We don't even know how long any of this
No,
takes.
because basically right after that, you get the scene where he's standing in front of the fire, and then he's instantly, like, tracked Bigfoot and is now...
And he shoots. He sees him. He shoots.
Yeah,
He shoots him
shoots
in
him
the head.
we
Yeah.
don't even get to see like any of his tracking abilities, like
No.
why they picked him. We don't get to see any of that, and they don't give us a real timetable. They just say that like you're the last resort, right? Well, is that one day? Is it 72 hours? Is it a week? Like, what are we talking about?
It's a 50 square mile area, they said. So we're meant to believe that he
It's a
went
lot.
and tracked this Bigfoot in 50 square miles
Over
on
what period of
foot.
time?
Yeah, exactly.
With just
So-
a backpack and like I don't
His
know.
wits.
His wits, right? But we don't get to see
I
any of
know.
it. That would have been the opportunity. Like one of the coolest.
It's everything
parts,
we've asked for Batman. We just want to see the detective already.
Well, it's like one of the coolest parts of the original Predator movie is watching Arnold set all the traps at the end for the big showdown fight. Because you get to see like why is he really the one to survive?
But that's
till
not what the
end,
movie is about.
No.
I know, but like Sam Elliott was picked for similar reasons, right? He's this badass military
Right.
mastermind, we
And
don't
they
get to
could have
see
set it
any
up.
of
He
it.
could have walked into Larry Miller's barber shop, and Larry Miller could have been like, Calvin, you son of a bitch. And it would have been amazing.
They grab each other's hands
Yeah.
and start
They
fuck
show
it.
their weak
Look,
old
that's
biceps.
not what I mean. But like we don't.
but
get,
sweating. They're both sweating still. Shiny.
The only tracking that they show is after he's already shot Bigfoot. We see a footprint, which is not that big, it turns out.
By the way.
And some feces. Find out he's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Those both happen after he's already tracked him in this wilderness.
Yes.
And is following him at this point. Right. So that was just disappointing. I would have liked to have seen like the skills.
So
that
you
led
want to talk
it.
about how disappointing Bigfoot is?
So I've watched a lot of monster movies. I love classic monster movies. I've watched
I love cryptids
old
and kaiju.
Godzillas,
Yeah.
and man, Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of my favorites. Why was this so bad?
So this was Bigfoot was played by apparently like a 5'7" gymnast in a fursuit and a really bad spirit Halloween mask.
So his name is Mark Steger, and he does a lot of horror type stuff. He's actually played a critter. He was an alien in the original Men in Black.
That makes sense.
He's a creature actor of sorts. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong.
No, it was the design. It was absolutely the production design. Like, I don't need you to play into my already expectations of Bigfoot. I get that. I need you to do a bit better.
Yeah, like
He was better in
next
Harry
time,
and the Hendersons.
if you guys are going to be watching this, the people that have been tweeting at us or retweeting us, contact me. I have a business. I'll do this stuff for you, and I'll do it really cheap.
Buster props.
If it means it's going to be better than what you did, we would have done a better job.
So the face was pretty horrifying, and that's because there wasn't
You don't
a
ever really
face.
see it. Like, you don't.
There's a couple of shots.
Yeah, but it's like even
They're
then it's
fleeting.
for very like less than 2 seconds probably. I mean, I think the vomit scene was the longest you got to see that.
That was just unnecessary.
It was so out of place and disgusting. Like, what's even the point of that?
I don't
That's
know.
like one of those tone things
Well,
again. Is it trying to be a B movie
It's
or is
to
it trying to
mislead
be?
you because right after he vomits on him, you see the funeral scene.
You say on him. It vomited into his open mouth.
I covered my
How did
face.
Sam
I didn't
Elliott
know.
agree with this?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're friends.
He had to be
you know,
picking
or
chunks out of
something.
his mustache for weeks.
I mean, I don't know. Who knows what it was made out of? But I mean, you're right. I'm with you 100%. That moment seemed completely out of place, completely just unnecessary across the board, and just.
I mean, the
gross.
only cool thing about Bigfoot is that for some reason, just his existence causes this plague. So, I mean, we all know that disease is spread through either body contact or contact with fluids or waste. So, you know, they already said that his character was immune to.
Yeah, which I also found very convenient. That
Yeah.
this the one tracker in the world that could do this is
They
is
just
the guy
happen
that's
to have
immune.
his
But here's
blood.
the movie answered
And they
it
just
for you,
happen to have
though.
his
See,
blood.
here's they did the one thing that they probably thought audiences have always been asking for, right? Which is, well, that was really convenient. Like, why is he the only one? And they went and actually explained it, which almost made it worse. Because they're like, well, there were 4 people to choose from, and like there's 5.
2 are dead.
2 are already dead, and 2 are like 13 or something
Yeah.
like that, right? So I was like, man, you guys, you thought for a moment this is a complaint that most people have, and you're gonna fix that, and it made
Did it really fix it?
no,
though?
it made it worse.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
exactly.
It made it worse. So careful what you wish for, I guess, as an audience member. But
The fight between him and Bigfoot again was really like super cut heavy. The only cool part was when Bigfoot like broke his arm or whatever
Yeah.
disjointed
That was
it or whatever.
intense, man.
That was cool. But
the faking it was dead thing was interesting. I'm not really sure.
I
like-
thought it was completely out of place. By this time, it's, you know, an hour, maybe an hour 10 into the movie. We're in the last act, and I understand what the movie is at this point. Faking the death and having a jump scare at this point was like too little too late. Like, I wanted Hitler to do that back at minute 30. Like, Hitler should have jumped out and been like, just kidding, man, fuck you.
There's some other like logistical problems here. So he throws his walkie-talkie in the river.
That was dumb.
Right. Now, again, we're supposed to be on a fairly tight time frame. That's why he throws it in the river, because they're telling him we're on a really tight time frame. So how does he get out of there?
he walks the same way he tracked Bigfoot.
Through the fire again without being
Yes.
able to contact
Clearly.
anybody before they drop bombs.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Oh, yeah. Their deterrent, they were going to nuke the middle of Canada.
The U.S. was. Not Canada. The U.S. was going
Which
to
is about
bomb
right.
Canada.
I
Well,
mean-
they implied that Canada doesn't have any nukes. Like,
That's totally what they said, too. Which, I mean, I don't know. It's still silly. It's still silly. Like,
first
we're
of all,
it's such
Canada's
a, US
a first
thing.
world country. Of course, they have a couple nuclear. Like, of course they do. They may never use them. They may expire, and bleed out like extinguishers later
I
on.
don't know
But
that you
like,
need nukes to kill one Bigfoot.
I don't know.
I don't know. Look, I don't know. That's not the point. The point is more of just he then has to walk all the way back. He's now got a broken finger and a broken arm.
And his ear chopped
And
off.
his ear was
When that fight
Evander
happened and we
Holyfield.
were watching that, we saw the random piece of meat fly off, but I had no idea what the piece of meat was.
no, yeah.
They
It
never
was not
show it again.
clear. Yeah, and then when you see it, you see him like with the bandage over his ear, and so then you go, okay, it was his ear. But
Yeah.
you would have thought they would have made it a point to show that he got his ear chopped off, like that was part of the
they
fight.
So
only
that was
show-
really obvious to me. I saw it.
Was it?
Yeah. So maybe you blinked at like the wrong moment or something.
Well,
like
then that's
that.
a problem because
But
if I could
agree.
blink and miss
Yeah.
that, then that's a
It just brought me back to the Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield fight. Like that's what it looks like. They
My
watched
dad
that
was
scene.
watching
and-
that
and they're-
night.
It's the only pay-per-view my father ever paid for, and he was furious because the fight was like 6 minutes. So, but it looked like they watched that fight, and they're like, we're just gonna do that. And
Did he bite it off?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Gross.
Yeah, it was disgusting. So yeah, so he's missing an ear, his arm is broken, a finger on the same arm is broken, and he's now got to walk back however
And he's
far.
covered in vomit.
And he's covered
It's
in
in his
vomit
mustache.
and blood, and I mean, whatever. He's probably low on ammo at this point, and he can't hunt anything. Everything's dead, so I don't know what kind of food he has, and he has to get out before they bomb everything, which also is ridiculous. So why did they fake his death?
Maybe he just wanted to be done with it. But
To who?
I don't know. I have no idea. It is completely pointless. First of all, he's not friends with anybody. There's no neighbors
Right.
or people coming over to his house. He wasn't doing it to give up his
He
home
had the
because it goes
bartender
straight
that he went
there.
to every night.
Okay.
They just
Implied.
traded insults to each other.
Right, but but sometimes friendships are like that, and I mean, that's, he did it was kind of implied that he goes there very often. So I guess that's probably the only person outside of his brother
That's true.
that cared about him.
So like, what's the point? Who is he faking the death for?
Well, yeah, he's keeping the house and he's keeping the dog. So his obligations, his real world obligations are still there. And then he goes back, digs up what
That
was
was
buried. So
Well, and okay, so the time frame here is all jacked up too.
Like within 20 seconds, a complete retcon of his death.
So he quote dies. Now the only person people he'd want to be hiding from is the military. So he'd have to really fake his death, in which case he'd lose the house,
Yes.
right, and the car, right. But that
Unless he
doesn't-
left it to his brother, and his brother just...
I guess maybe. But I don't know how much time passes here, because when he goes back to dig up the box, it's all grass on top of the grave. Like it looks like it's been there for ages.
Yeah, that wasn't well done.
So I don't know how much time was supposed to pass, because he was still wearing the sling like 20 minutes earlier.
And the bandage on his
ear, yeah. So this has to be within like the week.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I don't know how many people,
Maybe they laid sod.
they laid sod. God.
Fixed it. You're welcome, director. Solved that problem for you.
Okay,
God.
so we're kind of at the end of reviewing this movie. Before we give out letter grades, talk about something you enjoyed.
My favorite part of the movie was
You can't say the credit.
no. It was like the actual like the parts in World War II at the Nazi location where Hitler was when
Yeah.
he was going through the like the security sweep, so to speak, and like the bombs are hitting nearby and the building shaking, and he has to go upstairs and he's putting the gun together and all. That was all really well done and feels like it belongs in a completely different movie.
Right.
I mean, I'd say Sam Elliott is the most positive part for me. He's, he did his best with the movie and he bought into it. And on the dramatic scenes, even if they felt out of place, he did pull it off and you believed that he was hurting. And, regardless of what the rest of the movie was, he was good and did really, what you expect from Sam Elliott.
Can I change mine?
No?
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
It's when he finally got the rock out of his shoe.
Oh, all right.
Derek loves heavy-handed symbolism.
Derek's fired, guys.
I
Derek's
look
fired.
in the beginning of the movie when he's walking to his car and he does the weird thing with his foot. And I'm like, well, that's gonna come up later, and it comes up like 4 times.
At one point, we paused the movie, and Derek's like, I really hate when something's in my shoe, and you just can't get it. And I was like, okay, baby.
I still didn't know what the movie was going to be yet, so I was trying to have fun with it.
Speaking of that, so you mentioned the scene at the very beginning where we, open parts of the World War II. I laughed so hard at the guy sitting at the desk. So this whole time, something is going on the second or third floor that's making the ceiling shake and drop dust.
It's the bombs.
It's the bombs.
that
Oh,
are
it's the
dropping
bombs?
nearby,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And planes taking off and stuff.
That makes sense. Okay. That wasn't explicitly clear, but I get it. Okay, so the dust keeps falling in this guy's drink. He pours it out, and he pours a new one, and then he keeps his hand covering it the whole time. It is his right hand. Aidan Turner, Calvin Barr, his character, comes in, shows all whatever he has on him, and shows the paperwork that he has to go meet Hitler in person. And then they exit, and they salute with the Heil Hitler Nazi salute, and he lifts his hand off the drink, and dust falls into the drink, and I laughed so hard at that.
The attention to detail for some things in this movie was very good.
It's pretty great.
That's not the only moment
yeah.
like that, but then for a lot of the problems that Derek's talked about, it was so bad. It's like the obvious things, the attention to detail was not good, but then the really small, subtle things, the attention to detail was very good.
It was a tone problem.
Yeah.
Right? The details there, they knew what they were writing. They knew their sets, their actors, their props. They knew all of that. They didn't know what kind of movie they were making.
So I also want to point out another attention to detail. That was the first time in a movie I'd ever seen this. With World War II movies, especially Holocaust movies, especially by Americans, we focus so hard on the Jewish aspect, but those were not the only people who were violently murdered. During the scene with Aidan Turner's character leaving the train, there are SS soldiers rounding up prisoners, and they are identified by the gold star, but there's also the pink triangle, which is what they identified gay men and gay women as. And now, the Star of David was always a symbol for Jewish people.
Yeah, they didn't have to make one
They
up.
didn't do that. But since then, the pink triangle has become associated as more of a positive thing for the gay community. But I had never seen that before in a film. I only knew about it because honestly, the Weezer song Pink Triangle, I looked it up after that. So,
There you go.
yeah. Pretty good attention to detail, costuming and things like that. It was on point, minus Bigfoot. So, I already said what my favorite part was. I liked Sam Elliott's monologue with talking to the military because, war is not something we all know about or will ever experience. And he had a very unique perspective, and I like the idea that by that point, Hitler was more of a figurehead or a puppet than he was anything else.
Sure. Speaking of the military guys, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but they were following him around for the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
And just didn't go talk to him for some reason. I don't know if you noticed that or not. So they burned 3 days just following him around.
Seems pointless. The dude just sits at home and eats really shitty food with his dog.
Well, because they even confirm it by saying, yeah, we saw the fight.
Yeah.
That was that first night, right? And they're rolling down the street a couple of other times stuff. So it's just weird. So
Well, it makes sense that someone called the cops because he does pass a cop car sirens on as he's
I don't
leaving.
think it was Flag Pin that did that, but
No, I think it was the Canadian guy because they're
okay.
stereotypically much
they're better
nicer.
people. They're better people than we are.
Usually.
Free healthcare.
As Greg Proops said, their whole country smells like pine and ours smells like urine. So
Hey, they've got Tim Hortons, so that's good.
we don't.
We don't. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. So you want to give it a letter grade because that's what we do?
Ryan, you always get to go first.
I'm gonna go with a C- because I feel like if you went in and said if you listen to our review and then you go in and watch it, if you go in knowing that it's not a B movie about a guy killing Hitler and Bigfoot, then I think you would probably enjoy it more.
Yes.
If I was just going off of my experience with the movie, it would be lower. But I think the movie itself had some problems, but was still, there were positives to it.
Tempered expectations.
Yeah.
It's like a blind date.
Exactly.
Derek?
I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
It's still not the worst movie I've seen during our time doing this show. I will say that.
Wrinkle in Time was worse.
Which one?
Wrinkle in Time.
Wrinkle in Time.
Dark Phoenix was worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather watch this again over
Me
either
too.
of those,
Yeah.
right? Just as an example. So I don't want to like grade it lower than those, but I don't remember what letter grade I gave them.
I'm going to go with a C+ for similar reasons.
So-
I think I liked it a bit better. I like those artsy fartsy sad
And also
films.
Sam Elliott. Like,
Yeah.
It's hard
man,
for me to
like,
ignore.
Sam
the
Elliott gets an A.
expectations.
He really does.
I love Sam Elliott. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything where I thought he wasn't just great in whatever. Well, like
I want to see him more as the lead and not some wise old dude cowboy that appears out of nowhere. Ghost Rider and Big Lebowski. Like,
yeah,
Parks and Rec.
weird stereotype.
Parks and Rec. Oh, he's
Love
so good in Parks and
that.
Rec. Ron. Oh, I love it.
I'm a nut.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'd probably give it a C-. It does have a few redeemable qualities. We've talked about those, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it just wasn't remotely what I thought it was going to be.
I
and
don't think that it's a waste of your time to watch this, but I also think you should watch it on a platform you already pay for instead of going out and spending more money on it.
yeah, and it depends what you're into. If you just love Sam Elliott or you just, love
Artsy fartsy
kind
sad
of
films.
niche movies, indie
Yeah.
films. I mean, it is an indie film. If that's
It
your
is.
thing, yeah, and you don't have Hulu, I think it's probably $3.99, $2.99 or whatever to rent on Amazon. So
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for tonight. So I am going to spatter off all of the closing.
you got this.
Here we go. All right. So you can follow Heroes Podcasts at heroespodcast.com on our website or at Heroes Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have a Patreon if you love our content and you want to keep us going.
Every dollar helps.
Every dollar helps. You can follow Screen Heroes individually at Screen Heroes Pod on Twitter. You can follow the three of us individually on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Buster Props
yes,
for
if you need
Ryan,
a Bigfoot costume and you're doing a indie film, please contact us.
I have ideas.
at the Star Trek Dude for Derek, and at Siren Ray for me. I'm Siren with a Y. That's going to wrap us up tonight.
Good
We
talk,
had
guys.
a lot of fun talking about this movie that we didn't have a lot of fun watching, so that's great.
That's right. But yeah, follow us on Twitter, please.
Please.
At Screen
we
Heroes
love
Pod.
interacting on Twitter.
Yeah.
Next week, join us for our San Diego Comic-Con wrap-up. It's always one of our favorite. We're going to be tweeting all weekend, sharing stuff all weekend. That's what I usually do, so I'll do it if you guys don't
I
mind.
already started. I was talking about Swamp Thing and
You
The
did.
Flash and Arrow, and I got 0 likes, not even from my friends.
Aw.
I didn't
Thanks,
see 'em.
guys.
Sorry, buddy.
Golly.
I'll turn my notifications on.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
you.
yeah. If you want to follow me personally, it's at RA24, and I've started tweeting again, so enjoy that.
It is pretty good. He has Ryan's an interesting person. I don't know why he downplays
I'm still figuring
it.
out Twitter.
It's
so.
fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. We'll catch you next time. Have a good night.